All right, we are back doing interviews, and we're interviewing somebody very special tonight. We're going to be interviewing the new, the new champion 2020 Crappie Masters, Ouachita River in Louisiana, Eric Cagle. Very excited about talking to Eric tonight. The dude is just, I love the guy. I think he's just a fantastic guy, and looking forward to learning what he did to put it together during a tough, well, it was a tough week on the river. So I was there. We experienced a lot of rain. Cannot wait to hear how he made a change, what his original plan was to what he ended up doing. So I want to start off by saying I want to thank the Crappie Masters. I thought you guys put on a fantastic event. Without a doubt, had a great time. The venue was great. Monroe, West Monroe. Never been there before. Didn't know what to expect. And I can tell you that I walked away with a very positive feeling about Monroe. I thought the city was fantastic. All the amenities that a crappie fisherman would like. And so looking forward to, at some point down the road, coming back there for some big tournaments. I don't know when those might be scheduled, but looking forward to it. Big thumbs up to them. I want to thank the sponsors for helping 3 Pound Fishing out. Ozark Rods, American Fish Tree, Jinko, Grizzly Jig, Cornfield Crappie Gear, Low Boats, Power Poles. Folks, I appreciate all your help for 3 Pound Fishing. So I'll tell you what, very excited. This guy has worked his tail off to become the new national champion. And I know that he just joined me, so I'm going to bring him in. Let's talk to Eric Cagle. And there he is.
Hey, man.
Hey, buddy. How you doing, man?
Doing good. I don't think I've ever been better.
Well, congratulations.
I appreciate it. I sure do. I told you earlier when I talked to you on the phone, I had a big list of honeydews when I got home, so I got them all rounded up today. So I'm ready to get back on the water tomorrow.
So you're one of the hardest working crappie fishermen. I mean, you put it in. You put the time in. A lot of people say you need to do that to be successful. You do that. I
guide for a living now. So I mean, I'm on the water a lot, but a lot of people don't realize what goes. I mean, you do, and a lot of these guys on the trail. A lot of people don't realize what goes into fishing a tournament.
yeah.
The guys like Robert Carlisle and the Matthew Rogers and the Tony Mike Shepard, Captain Coleman, all those guys that have been successful over the years that I always looked up to, the Captain Colemans and the older guys, those guys are on that water for Scott and Billy Williams, two guys I always looked up to. They're on the water from daylight to dark, man. They stay out there when it's not easy to do. You're out there pre-fishing 4 or 5 days, and you get tired. I mean, even sitting in a boat looking or riding around, you get tired, and I mean, you just got to kind of push through it. And the guys that it always seemed like to me, the guys that put the most time into it were always there at the top of that leaderboard. And I don't think anything's changed with that. I think it's the way I think about it. It's like anything else. The more you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it.
So true. So do you have the trophy with you? Can we see the trophy?
Man, I got both of them right here, baby.
Has it left you yet?
Oh yeah.
Check it out, dude. That is so good. I mean, honestly, man.
I appreciate it. I'm excited, and it means a lot, man. I mean, it really does. And I know that, it sounds crazy, but when you work hard for something, I mean, it means a lot to you, and it means a lot to me. It does.
Man, I totally appreciate you. And I thought, I know how hard you worked. I mean, the rumors were that you had been on the lake for a long time, that you had been putting your time in to learn the river, the Ouachita River. And so bring us to let's start at the pre-fish. And we had a lot of rain. We had a lot of changes. So tell me what's going through Eric Cagle's mind, just starting at the pre-fish and what you were doing.
I came down. I was not supposed to fish the ACT tournament. My partner in the ACT trail, TC Lloyd, was there to fish that tournament, and that's when the first hurricane came through, and they were there, and they canceled our guide trips on Grenada, so I was able to run over and just jump in the boat with him. And so I got a little feel of the place in those 2 days. I didn't get to pre-fish with him, but I got to fish the tournament with him, and we ended up finishing 8th in that thing. And man, we kind of had to find them on the go. It was just a tough deal. And so I got a little feel of the river then, but didn't have time to go look at anything. We just fished. And so I was there for 2 days during the ACT, and the Crappie Masters tournament here. I got there on Sunday.
Right.
No, I'm sorry, Saturday. The prior Saturday to the week of the tournament. So I had Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Half a day on Wednesday. So I had about 5.5 days to pre-fish, and the bayou is of course I think a lot of the bigger fish in that place live in that bayou, and Robert Carlisle's kind of proved that. I mean, he's done well, in the bayou those last 2 tournaments, and I didn't want to. I'm like everybody else. I like to kind of try to get away from everybody if I can, and I went way up that bayou. I went all the way to Darbone Dam up that bayou, and found a couple good spots up there. I pulled into one area up there, and I think it was Sunday or Monday. It was when first couple of days I was there. Caught a 228, a 218, and a 205 in three casts. And
Wow.
I'm sitting there thinking to myself, man, this is it. I got it. I got a good spot. And so I spent the next day just finding something else around that spot. Finding something else close to it. And when I got home that second night, I looked at the weather forecast, and it's calling for, I don't know, 8 inches of rain or something. I'm sitting there thinking like, oh man, that might be wasted. And so I went out and found some fish on the river, and it's not a secret. Everybody there knows that I fished Lake Hamilton in that tournament, and I had 2 more little cuts that had fish, but I really didn't have to go to them. I left Hamilton the last 2 hours on day one and went and caught some fish, but I never caught a fish. All 14 of my weigh fish came out of Lake Hamilton in that tournament. But
So
once I went back to answer your question, I went back Thursday morning to check those fish that I had found up in the bayou, and it was a ghost town. I mean, I spent time trying to see if they had moved anywhere there, or they just weren't there. They had pushed out or pushed down, but I couldn't find them. So I ended up going with Plan B, which was Lake Hamilton. So that's
so
kind of
you
how my practice week went.
were there any other lakes that you were considering other than Lake Hamilton, other than the bayou? Was there any other plays that you had?
Thursday afternoon, there's a little cut. I don't know the name. I don't even know if it's named, but there's a little cut that had just got enough water to get into. And I was thinking, I went by it and I looked in there and I was like, man, that's going to be fresh water. Nobody's fished it. So I'm like, I'll save that, and if I need a fish or two, I'll try to come fish that,
Right.
late in the evening. Well, on day one, when I left Hamilton, that's where I headed. I headed way down. It's down by the bayou, going toward the bayou from Hamilton. It's on the left, but it's a pretty good sized little cut. But you could not get in there until Thursday. That's the only day the water was high enough to get in there. And I'm thinking I'm gonna have this place to myself, and I pull in there, and there's 6 boats sitting in there. So, I wasn't the only one that was thinking that. Obviously, they were thinking the same thing I was about fresh water. Obviously, so I pulled in there, fished a little while, and caught some fish, but I never caught a coal, anything big enough to coal. So, on day 2, I pretty much made my mind up that I would not leave Lake Hamilton on day 2. I was going to stay there the whole time.
So what I had heard is that there was a lot of people in the bayou in the pre-fish, like 3-4 days leading up to a tournament. So did that change? Everybody left the bayou because of the water rise, and the left had left there, and that had changed the lakes around the river, really filled them up with other anglers.
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of people, like myself included, I mean, I didn't plan to fish the bayou. That's just where I found my first big fish at.
Okay.
way up at. I think a lot of people probably plan to fish that bayou. Just the previous tournaments that they had been won or either the top five had come out of there, most of them. And when that rain came in, I think it messed a lot of folks up and pushed those folks out, just like you're saying, to those lakes. And that's why there were so many boats in those lakes. But man, at one point, I think somebody told me it might have been Tony Shepard. Tony fished. You saw us in there. Tony fished. Tony and I and Mike, we fished beside each other both days all day, and they found the same pattern on the same fish that I found, and we that man, those guys are. I can't say enough about them. They gave me my space and I gave them their space, and we fished beside each other all day long. And I think I caught a fish 2 foot from their motor one time, and they caught a fish probably 3 foot from mine one time. So it
Right.
was we just put our heads down and fished in there, and it worked out good. But I think at one point, I think it was Tony told me that there were 16 boats in there at one time on Friday. 16 different, and that's not
Yeah.
a very, that's not a huge area.
Right.
It's not. But that's what worried me about Saturday is all that boat pressure. I had my weight in there by 10 o'clock Friday morning, and I never caught another fish after 10 o'clock. I had my total weight by 10, and that's what scared me about Saturday is those fish feeling that pressure and not being able to get them to bite. I knew they were going to be in there, and I just because I left fish in there on Friday, I saw they couldn't wouldn't eat. But after all that boat pressure, I was just scared I may not be able to get those fish to bite. But I was able to get 7 of them to bite, and that's about it for the big ones. But I caught I caught probably 30 fish in there Saturday, but only 7 good tournament fish.
Right.
Had several 150s, and I think at 2:45 we had to stop fishing at 3 o'clock. At 2:45 I called my last fish I needed to call. I called a 129 with a 190. So
Wow.
that gave me almost 3/4 of a pound right there.
Wow.
Well, that was huge. I mean, that was that was a big deal at 2:45 to catch that fish, and I felt like that when I caught that fish, I felt pretty confident that I'd have a shot at it.
Right. That's incredible. So talk about the baits, the line, the technique. So I watched you pull in so many fish, dude. I was mesmerized. You had something figured out. Your bait was hitting. And so talk about the setup. You also used a short rod, and you looked so comfortable in your boat. You had your dog in the boat. It was like a any other Saturday out on the lake, which I thought was the coolest thing.
Yeah, and I'll get to the rods and all. What's so cool to me is last year's national championship on Grenada, uh, and there may have been more people. I was one of the only ones out there pitching with a short rod to those fish. Everybody else was long poling and spider rigging. And this year at the Wichita here, there's no telling how many boats I saw, and everybody was, they were sitting in the front and they were pitching those short rods. And man, it's just cool to me to see. It's cool to see that. Everybody's not standing with that long rod anymore.
Yeah.
They're sitting down and
Great point.
casting and pitching. And Tony and Mike Shepard were doing the same thing.
Yeah.
They were beside me all day, and we were both fishing the same exact technique.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool for me to see that. I love fishing with that 6-foot rod, and that's what I'm not known at all, but I mean, if somebody knows me, they know that's how I fish. With that 6-foot rod, and that's what I did. But I'll show you. I mean, it's my signature series rod. 6-foot HH rod, and I've got a couple of them. Let me grab one.
Show them.
I've got a couple of them here, but it's got just a cork. I call it a Tennessee handle. It's 11-inch handle. I don't like a long handle. I don't because I sit down when I fish. So when I set the hook, I don't want anything bumping me. I guess I could lose 30 pounds and it wouldn't hit me in the stomach, but that's not gonna happen. So Anyway, I don't want anything bumping me, while I'm fishing. But I like a short handle. Matt, one of the, I'm gonna say this, and some folks are gonna say, well, he's just saying that because he's sponsored by them, and that's the last thing from the truth I can tell you. The line that I use makes a big difference, and there's a lot of people that use this K9 line. I use the high vis K9, 6 pound test is what I use, and the the thing about it is I don't think it's any stronger than Mr. Crappie line or Vicious or any of that. I don't think it's any strong. I'm not saying it's stronger. The memory, and it has zero memory. It's fluorocarbon and it has zero memory. So when I'm pitching to those fish, I mean, it's smooth as it can be, and I don't have tangles. I mean, that line is just as smooth as it can be. It has no loops and no memory in it, and that I mean, as minute as that may sound, in an 8 hour period, if you're sitting there getting tangles out of your line for 3 minutes a day, I mean that's 3 more minutes you could have fished.
So let me just stop you. So you're referring to maybe braid tangles?
No, I mean just regular monofilament, Mr. Crappie, and it's all great line. I'm not down on anybody's product.
Right.
I'm just saying I prefer the fluorocarbon, guiding, and I figured this out guiding when I first started using it because I could put Vicious or Mr. Crappie or Suffix, any of that line, I could put on my rods and I'd have to change it about every 3 days because, when that rod sits in my boat overnight, it develops memory. And when I take those guys out the next day and we try to cast, when you cast that jig out there, your line's all looped up because it has memory in it.
Right.
Well, that fluoro has no memory.
Right.
So you can leave that rod. I can leave that rod in my boat for 2 weeks and take it right out there and pitch it, and that line flows as smooth as it did when you put it on the rod.
Did you have any concern about you using 6 pound line versus 8, 10, or anything stronger?
No,
6 pounds. Did you net your fish or did you flip them in?
I net in a tournament. I net every fish.
Every
if it's a good, I mean, I flip a pounder in, but I mean if it's a pound and a half fish or better, I net it.
So talk about your rod. Tell me about what makes it special. Tell me about the stiffness of it and give me some details on the rod.
The rod. I mean, the rod is the eye spacing makes a big difference on these short rods. It's where your backbone ends and your tip begins, and we did a lot of work on the eye spacing. Eric Howard sent that rod back I think 3 times, and to get it adjusted to where we wanted it. And I want that on my rod. I'm looking at it right here as I'm talking to you. The backbone goes all the way up to the third eye from the tip, and the rest of it's just tip. So when that fish is coming, if that fish is coming up to that bait, I want enough tip where I can pull back on it to feel if he's got it, to feel pressure. Not that those fish, especially on like Grenada and some of those fish down there this weekend, you wouldn't feel a tap. That fish would just come up behind that bait and push it at you. So you wouldn't feel the tick, the old crappie tick. A lot of them I never felt that. I would ease that rod up and I would feel pressure. And by having a little bit of limber tip, that fish doesn't feel it when you lift that rod up. He doesn't feel that, but you can feel a little bit of pressure, and then you finish setting the hook on him.
Gotcha.
And you got to have a good tip to dock shooting. We do a lot of dock shooting here too. So, that's the only rod I use. I use that rod for dock shooting and casting, and it's kind of a multi-purpose rod. But I'm not a salesman here. I mean, I use it because I designed it, and that's what I like. A lot of people might not like that rod, and that's fine too. But that's what I use, and it's a good rod. And B&M and Mr. Crappie, all of them make good rods. They're all great rods. I mean, they are. I don't think mine's any better than the rest of them. I just, it's a good quality, good feeling rod.
Well, I saw you put a bunch of fish in your boat, so you're right. Your rod did the job. So when you do a tournament, do you have how many of those rods do you have set up? Do you have them all set up with different baits?
I have 4 of them in the boat, and man, there's one thing I never go to a tournament without, and it was in my boat this weekend too. I never go anywhere without a slip cord rig.
Really?
I've caught, if there's a big old fish sitting down there and I can't get him to react or her to react, I can usually put a slip cord down there. And TC Lloyd and I couldn't get those fish to bite in the ACT tournament there on the Ouachita, and we caught our first 5 keepers on a slip cord in a minute, and in
Really?
that tournament, which helped us out a lot. But I never leave the house without a slip cord rig ever. And I think when folks are pushing those minnows, into those fish, there's still you still got pressure on that minnow because that rod's there. When you flip a cork in there, that minnow swims more freely because all he's got is a split shot above him, so he can
Right.
sit down there and kind of move like he wants to more freely than he can if you're pushing him in there, or if you got a long rod holding him in there. He looks more natural, on a slip cord rig. But
Did you have to use a Did you have to use a slip cord rig?
I did not use it on Saturday at all. On Friday, I did catch a fish on. I had minnows in my boat on Friday, and I caught one fish on a minnow that I couldn't get the bite on a slip cord. But Saturday, I never used it. I didn't even take any minnows with me Saturday. I said, man, I'm gonna get them to eat this jig, or I'm not gonna catch them. So it worked out. But I keep 4 of those short rods in my boat. That's what I had in my boat for that tournament. I didn't even take a long rod with me. I had 4 short rods, and that's all I had.
So tell me the difference between why a short rod versus a 10 or 11 or 13 footer, because you felt like you needed to flip to them to get to them, or was it because that's the way you had to present the bait, or how?
It's really what I'm comfortable with. I don't think, I'll be honest, and people are going to disagree with me, and that's
It's
fine. I
okay.
mean,
This is how
you,
you
you
want
know,
it.
this is I feel like if the fish are active and you don't have to just sit the jig on their head, I feel like I can outfish somebody with a short rod. And this is why, because when that fish is coming at my boat, if he's inside 10 feet, or if even who's at 30 feet, I'm going to get more jig passes on that fish than you are with that long rod, because I'm gonna hit him at 40, 30, 20, 10. If he gets it 3 feet, I can drop it right beside the boat. I don't have to pick my rod up or back it up or anything like that. I can just drop that little short rod right there on top of him, right by the boat. I don't have to adjust that long rod to do any of that. I mean, I got a little 6-foot rod, and I mean, I can point it in the water if I want to, and get the jig. I can put the jig more places quicker than you can with a long rod, if that makes sense.
Dude. So I watched you, and I watched you pitch at one fish 4 or 5 times. And I was like watching you work them from a distance. You were pitching out at 25, then you went back to 15. And then before you know it, you were dropping at 5. Then you turned your boat around and you're still pitching to them as the fish is going by. And I was impressed. And certainly that 6-footer gives you that versatility.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. And I don't, when that fish is coming at my boat, I will not hit my trolling motor. I'll wait till that fish gets past my boat when you're saying you saw me turn, I'll wait till he gets past my boat. He'll usually choose a side. I mean, I say choose a side. He'll usually go down the left or the right side of my boat. He usually don't just hit it dead on. But
Right.
when he goes past that trolling motor, I'll let him get past just a little bit, and then I'll turn my boat and start pitching again. And that's what, if you saw that, that's why I waited till he got by, and the whole time he's going by, I'm still dropping, trying to get right on that head. But that's exactly how I do it. I start pitching at them when I see them, and I work them all the way to that boat, and I just keep working and keep working until I get him. I feel like if I get that fish to react to the bait, then I've done all I can do. If he sits there and doesn't react, then I'll keep playing with him till I either spook him or get him to react to the bait. I'll stay on that fish.
All right, real quick. What live scope system do you have?
I use a 12-22. I got a backup. I got a 12-42 I keep in the boat, but the one I use is a 12-22.
Okay.
That's the reason I like it is because of the turn knob on the. I can adjust it real quickly with that turn knob, and that's really why I haven't upgraded, because I don't like the touchscreen adjustment as much as I like that little quick turn knob. You know, that the 1022 and the 1222 have that turn knob on them.
When you say backup, do you just have a monitor backup, or do you have a black box and the whole 9 yards?
I got a backup of everything. If anything goes out, I got an extra.
Yeah.
You know, in the boat. But I just, you know, I'm fishing by myself, so there ain't any reason to have two of them on. You know.
So, all right. So go to baits. Let's talk about the baits and which.
Yeah, I laid some out here. I was going to show you. The one that I don't have is, and I ran out of them, but it's of course I use a muddy water black chartreuse. There's the muddy water, but I was taking that black chartreuse, and this is an orange. I'm out of black. I ran out of them there, so I was taking it. The regular jig, it's their small jig, and I was biting it off. I was making it even smaller. I was just biting it way off, where it's just a little black and chartreuse. But it seemed like those fish wanted a small bait, and that's what I was doing with those muddy waters. But this when I ran out of that muddy water black chartreuse, this is a little jig that I use. I mean, I use a ton. I use it here night fishing all the time. It's a panfish assassin. It's called a Texas avocado. It's black chartreuse also.
Right.
Here's one rigged on a jig, and y'all gonna laugh at me. I've done this my whole life, and I'm not changing now. But I hook these things backwards.
Wow.
I've always hooked them backwards. I always will. There's the. See if I can hold it where you can see it. There's the skipper's jig, minnow head, and see how I got that jig hooked backwards.
Yep.
I've always done it that way. I mean, with Bobby Garland, with muddy water, you don't have to worry about it because there's not a wrong side. But those minnow jigs, I always hook backwards. But I think I talked to a few guys about this too. But I think this is a big. Can you see that there?
Yeah, bring it up a little bit.
That is a.
There you go.
That is a light wire hook, and that's what I use. I don't use no on my plastics. I use that light wire hook, and that's a number 2 must add light wire. Eagle Claw makes a light wire too that I poured my own for 20 years, and Skipper's Jigs pouring these for me now. It's a minnow head, number 2 light wire hook, and I think, man, and it's all about what you have confidence in. Everybody knows that. There in 2 days, I told you this earlier when we talked, and it's the God's honest truth. Everything's got to go right to win one of those tournaments, and we know that. In 2 days, 16 hours of fishing, there was only one fish that I set the hook on that I didn't boat in 2 days in there, and that's a big reason I think I had a chance to win. Is because I did, everything went my way, and it was just one of those weekends where everything went my way, and I had some luck to go along with it. But I got confidence in that little light wire hook, and a lot of people won't use them because they're scared they'll bend out. But I'm throwing a casting rod at them. I don't have braid, so when I set the hook on that fish, my drag is set on my reel. So if that fish pulls hard, my drag's gonna go. That hook's not gonna bend because I got drag. He'll pull drag before the hook bends out. But that little wire hook is so thin that when I pop that fish, if it's in his mouth, that little wire hook's going through his jaw. I mean, it's like a needle. It's going to stick through him somewhere, And I got a lot of confidence in those wire hooks. I do. But here's – go ahead.
So did you use any other weight? Was it was it a 32nd head? What was the size of the head that you were throwing?
I used 16th and 32nd.
Okay. Any additional weight with that, or was it flat out jig? And at what depth were you finding the fish at primarily?
Friday in that lake. I'll show you these jigs real quick, and then I'll talk about the depth. These are the hair jigs that I use. There's 2 different ones. Yeah, here it is. I got it. This is it's funny. I caught my last whitefish on this jig right here. This is a Freaky Frank's black and chartreuse.
Grab it by the hook so I can see the head.
I bought this jig from Frank at the meeting Wednesday. You were there. You saw me buy them right across from you. Remember that? I walked right over and talked to you after I bought these jigs. That's the jig that I caught my last coil fish on Saturday. That's the jig. But that jig there, and I've always used these jigs. They're real small. Limits tackle. Steve Conclavis out of I think he's out of Texas.
Yes.
But Steve, that's a little bitty 32nd there, but it's a real small jig, and I don't know if you can tell on there. You can tell by the size of my finger how small it is. But Steve ties those jigs for me, limits tackle, and he's got a small hook, but it's a real strong hook, but it's small. And I use those hooks here all the time, and I used them in that tournament too, and they got the job done. But that's the basically the three hooks that I use in those hair jigs and that wire hook.
So that's small from limits tackle. Would you be able to cast that? With
and that's what I was gonna. The reason that I had that 32nd on is because on Friday when we fished that lake, those bigger fish were down on the structure. I mean, there's stakes and sticks and stumps and all kind of stuff in there in that lake, and I had a bunch of that stuff marked. Those bigger fish were down there, relating to that structure. As the morning got on up, about 7:30, they started relating to it, and we started catching them. On Saturday, and I don't know if it's because of all the boat pressure or why they did it, but on Saturday those fish weren't on the structure as much. The bigger fish were up scattered, and they were right under the surface of the water. They were 3 to 4 foot deep. They were real shallow Saturday, and a lot of them wouldn't bite. They were skittish, but I put that 32nd on, that 32nd ounce jig Saturday morning, and that's how I caught. I think my first weight fish was a 178, and then I caught a 230, and that 230 was. I bet that 230 wasn't 2 to 3 foot under the surface. She was.
That's when you would use the 32nd ounce head because it would fall.
What's that?
Because it would fall slow and it give it time to react.
It give me time to adjust before it got to them, so I could see it and kind of adjust the jig before it got to the fish where I wouldn't go below the fish. I don't want that jig to go below that fish. I want to keep it eye level or above him, where he can see it. But that's when those small jigs came in handy, is when those fish were shallow on Saturday morning, really. And I started catching some of those bigger fish really shallow on Saturday in there. And then as the day went on, those fish sank down some, and some of them even went to structure, but most of them stayed scattered in there. And I had to do a lot more moving Saturday, than I did.
You were back and forth along that whole coast. Yeah. It was amazing. You worked that whole thing. It was amazing to watch.
They were just scattered fish, and just had to go until you. And by the end of the day, I felt like I was fishing for the same fish I saw earlier. but no, you were in there. You saw it, I mean, and you were over there grinding too, and that's what I said at the weigh-in. I think that I think putting your head down and just staying focused on catching those 7, is what helped me. And there were still a lot of boats in there Saturday, but not near as many as Friday.
Right.
But you just can't. It bothers you a little bit, when you hear, like, if I'd hear Tony and Mike catch a fish over there, I'm like, golly, it kind of it's in your head a little bit, and you can't. You just got to fight it. You can't worry about it, and you just got to catch what you can catch.
Right.
And I think Wade and I talk about it all the time, but George Parker. You've heard of George Parker and Tim Everly. George Parker told me and Wade McDonald when we first started tournament fishing in Florida down there when he whooped our butts. he said, "Boys, y'all can't worry about what they do because they ain't gonna catch y'all's fish, and you ain't gonna catch their fish. You gonna catch your fish, and they gonna catch their fish." Yeah. And that's I've believed that, and I still believe it today.
You said similar to that when you accepted your trophy, and that meant a lot to me, and I remembered that, and I will remember that going forward, because it does bother you when you see other people doing other things, and you don't want to change what your plan was, or I mean, some level, regardless, it meant a lot to hear that.
Yeah, and I, and that's who I heard that from, and it kind of hit home with me, and I mean that's how that's how I approach it, and that's how I think about it. I mean, if there's fish in there, there's some that they wasn't going to catch, and there's some that I wasn't going to catch, So that's just how how I approach it now. So, but it's been a heck of a weekend, man. I'm still tickled to death, and I put a post up yesterday, and I made a lot of the last 4 years. I made a lot of friends doing this, and there's a lot of good folks on that tournament trail, and man, I really cherish the friends that I've made out there, and in the last 4 years, there's just some good folks at Crappie Fish. There really is.
Well, you're one of them. I mean, I appreciated you taking the time to talk to me at Grenada at the event a couple of weeks ago. And I mean, it was fun to watch you work Lake Hamilton or whatever. And I thought it was fantastic to see what you were doing there. Let me ask you this: the night after day one, how did you feel? Were you nervous going into day two? What's your the routine that you did that evening? Did you go to bed early? Is it?
Yeah, I went to bed about 8:30 that night. I get Leanne and Eric Howard to tell you, because I've stayed with them quite a few times. I get kind of quiet. I don't I think about what's going on or what I need to do the next. I mean, I take it serious. I mean, I'm there to try to win. I mean, I'm competitive just like everybody else, and uh, I get kind of quiet, and I'm sitting there running through the game plan in my head. What if I pull in there? There's 1,000 scenarios, and that it's really funny, because then the next morning, the morning of the tournament, I actually calmed down a little bit, and I'm like, man, I'm just gonna go fishing. Let me get in there, and I can, if they're there, I can catch 7 of them. And after the first 10 minutes of the tournament, when I stop shaking, it's on. It's just fishing again. And that's what it's got to be. If you go in there and just do your best and fish, and it's nobody. If you're on the right fish, I don't think they can beat you.
So, did you ever question your choice, like for the second day? You knew
No,
you were going to go right back to where you were the first day.
Not at all. I knew that those fish. I knew that the winning fish were in Hamilton. Uh, because I mean, I was in third, only .30 back, I think, from day one.
Right.
And I knew there was better fish in there than I had caught on day one, because I saw them. I just couldn't get them to bite. And that's one thing that I've always, I won't say been good at, but that's one thing that I've always tried to do. If I'm catching fish somewhere, I probably ain't leaving. I'm not one of those guys that's going to run all over the place. I'm not going to do it. If the fish are there, I think they're there to win that tournament, I'm probably going to win it or lose it right there. I don't like moving a lot. If it's a confidence thing, and if I got confidence that they're there and I can see them, I just feel like I can, over 8 hour period, I can make 7 of them bite. And that's basically what happened on day two, because you were in there too. That bite wasn't very good on day two.
Mm-hmm.
It just wasn't. I don't know if it's because of the pressure, or why, but it wasn't nearly as good a bite in there on day two as it was day one. But I just told myself when I got there that morning, when I caught that 2:30 at about 8 o'clock that morning, that was it. I knew I wasn't leaving, because I knew they were there, and I knew I could probably get 5 or 6 more on the bite.
Right.
And that's what with 15 minutes left to go, I got the last one to bite. So it worked out.
How do you like being a single angler? How do you and tell me about what your views on the future of crappie fishing in regards to single teams, single man teams?
I don't think I don't. It's definitely not an advantage. I can tell you that, because I mean, the having an extra guy in the boat does 2 things for you. One of you can cull and take care of those fish and net, and while the other guy keeps fishing. whether it be whoever it be, whoever catches it, the other one nets and keeps fishing. It's more time efficient to have two people, and also it's you know it, to me, having somebody to talk to about a decision, is just comforting. Wade, like I said, Wade McDonald's fished all of my basically fish with me, and he's my partner. And Wade and I were really good about talking to each other, talking stuff through before we made a decision. And it's just comforting to talk to somebody about it. Well, I mean, I talk to my dog a lot, but
I'm
but
sure you do.
but anyway, I mean, what I'm saying. I mean, if you're by yourself like you were the other day, and you're about to make a rash decision to run 30 minutes down the river, and you got a guy beside you says, "Hey, man, we just caught a 220 in here. How about let's stick it out." Just somebody to talk to and ration with. Kind of it makes a difference sometimes. It does.
Right.
So I don't moving forward. I think there's gonna I think either way. I think it can be a one man's game, or it can be a partner thing. I don't think there's a advantage or disadvantage to fishing by yourself or with a partner. I don't think there's a huge difference there. I think it's really an advantage to have a partner in the boat. To it's more time efficient. I got to stop and go back there and weigh my fish and cull out and then go back to fishing. Whereas somebody that has a partner, they can just keep fishing, you
Right.
know. So it's more time efficient, for sure. Um, but it can be done either way. So I mean, I don't know if that answers your question,
No,
but
it does. Perfect.
that's
Perfect.
that's that's how I think about it anyway.
So, all right. So, just ending this, your full time job right now is guiding on Grenada, or give the fine folks a phone number. How do they get a hold of you? Book
Yeah,
a trip with you. Give us some information how they can be in contact with you.
I run a guide service here in Alabama. It's C&M Guide Service, the letter C and the letter M Guide Service. I'm on Facebook. I do all my stuff through Facebook. They can contact us on Facebook. But I guide in Alabama from October through May, and we have really really good winter and fall and spring fishing here. Our summer fishing gets a little slow because we got really clear water here,
Right.
and our fish go really deep in the summer. And
Which
I
lake?
what's
Which
that?
which lake in Alabama?
I got on 5 different lakes here. I got on Martin, Jordan, Mitchell, the Alabama River, and Lake Eufaula.
Okay.
And my phone number, you can reach me on Facebook, or you can call me. My phone number is 334-558-4097. So you can give me a call, or shoot me a text, and I'll be in Grenada June, July, and August. So I'll be guiding on Grenada just like I did this year, probably June, July, and August next year. And yeah, man, we burn them up here, and we had a really good summer there too, man. I had a ball over there this summer.
All right. Do you want to thank your sponsors? I mean, talk about your
Yeah,
sponsors. You
yeah,
take
love
take all the
to.
time too. I mean, it's like
What's that?
take your time on it. I want to hear about your sponsors.
Uh,
Be where you're at now.
rods and reels, of course. HH rods and reels, and I don't. There's a lot of. I said it earlier. There's a lot of good rods and reels out there. I don't know that anybody's been as good, to a pro staff guy as Eric and Leanne have been to me, and several, our whole pro staff. I mean, they got big hearts, and I mean, they'll give you the shirt off their back, off their back. They're just good folks, man, and I can't say enough about them. Charlie and Travis Bunning, Muddy Water Baits. I mean, they they're as good of folks as you ever gonna meet. Mr. Charlie and them, and they're just great folks. And uh, anytime I need something, they're gonna make sure I get it. And I appreciate them. Uh, K9 Fishing Line. I talked about it earlier. Kelly Alberts out of near Nashville, Tennessee, over there. So he's right there in Tennessee, and they've been doing line for a long time. He's got all kinds: bass fishing line, braid, crappie line. He's got it all.
Right.
Uh, and let's see here, Potski Bait Company. Potski does a lot for me. They've come out with the little fireballs, which are really slippery, but if you get them on your hook, they'll stay on there. They got the minnow dye that we use a pretty good bit in the winter here. You can dye live minnow, any color: chartreuse, blue, red, pink, orange. And it works well. They do a lot of, he comes up and does some filming every year, some YouTube stuff, which me and you talked about a while back.
And I'll tell you, I thought it was fantastic. So I want to tell everybody that they should check out those videos that you did with Potsy Baits. I thought it was fantastic what you had shown there. And it was on Grenada, correct?
Yes, yes, sir. The last two were on Grenada Lake. That's right.
Yeah. Well worth the watch on YouTube for sure.
I appreciate it. And Southern Light LED, I don't talk about him a whole lot. He's in Auburn, Alabama. He's right down the road from me, but he makes any kind of light for your boat. I've got a big spotlight on the front of my boat, and on these tournaments, I mean, I don't have to worry about hitting anything running down that river. I don't, not at all. So interior lights, he makes a great product too, and he's a buddy. I hunt with, he's a buddy of mine, and they got great customer service. Anything breaks, he sends you a new one. So Southern Light LED in Auburn, Alabama. And I got one more, Skipper's Jigs. I just showed y'all that they're wire hooks that I use all the time. And Scott and Tina Scott out of Florida, they make some good products down there, and that's the jig that I use 90% of the time is their light wire minnow head. And that's the jig I use most of the time guiding and fun fishing and tournament fishing. So that's all my sponsors, man, and I appreciate everything they do for me. I really do.
That's awesome. So show us the trophy again one more time.
But I would show you Bo's, but he's sleeping by it over there.
Check it out. You also got that accompanied by a big old check. You got plans for that check?
Man, I called Mike Valentine today and told him to be ready for an overdraft fee because I changed it to $300,000 before I took it to the bank. I got somebody for you.
Go for it. Ah, yeah.
There's the co-champion right there.
So he just chills in the boat. I didn't see him up at all. Just sits there and just chills.
You know what's funny is I told somebody this morning. I think it's the scale. My scales, when I get my scales out, he knows it's tournament day. Because
Really?
any other time, if I'm fun fishing or pre-fishing, he'll come up there and lay right up under my feet. He'll lay up there with me.
Right.
But he knows there's somehow, I don't know how he knows, but I think it's the scales. When I get those scales out, he knows that it's all business and he won't come up there. He'll stay in the back. It's pretty, he's pretty smart. It's pretty funny, man. But he knows when it's tournament day. He does, but he's a good sport, man. He's no trouble at all on that boat. He goes back there and lays.
Do you talk to him? Do you talk to him during the tournament? Are you talking to your dog?
Look, yeah, I sometimes like in the summer, especially, Saturday, I thought I was gonna have to let him jump in because he started panting a little bit back there. So I'll let him jump in the water and then pull him back in. He's good for another couple hours,
Oh, it's awesome. Hey, dude, we appreciate you and congratulations. You're an awesome champion. Crappie Masters 2020 national champion. Awesome, dude.
Man, I appreciate it. And thanks for having me, Matt. I really appreciate it, man.
All right, brother. Talk to you later.
Thank you. See you.